Hey, it's Ray, and welcome to Sober Without God. And today I want to talk about alcohol and grief. And before I start, I'm going to let you know if you're struggling with alcohol abuse or alcohol use, check out the Reframe app on your phone. There's a great community of people there to help. And if you're struggling with grief, talk to a licensed therapist or a counselor, or with either of these issues, talk to your primary care provider or a medical professional. There's no substitute in the world for making sure that you are talking to a licensed healthcare professional about either of these issues. Now, I know for myself, and talking from my own personal view, that one of the things that kept me drinking was dealing with unresolved grief. I had a significant loss of people in my life that kept me hitting the bottle for a long time. Um, I lost both parents in separate accidents. I had a college roommate die in a car accident. And during one of my jobs, I was just surrounded by grief on a regular basis. And if you're in that situation and you drink, um, drink is one of those coping mechanisms that we have that that we feel like we can go to help control grief. It's self medication. It's it's one of those things that we use over and over again to tamp down feelings, and we feel like we're coping with alcohol, um, but we're really not. We're doing ourselves a great disservice by not working through those stages of grief, and we're not working through the cycle of grief, the process of grief. And today I want to take a minute and talk to you about why getting through grief is very similar to getting through the urges and cravings of alcohol. And if you deal with one, it's like dealing with the other. And you may find yourself in a position today where it's very difficult for you to stop drinking. And you find those urges and cravings coming on. And it's very difficult for you to stop drinking because those urges and cravings come on. You just can't beat those urges and cravings, and you're still also dealing with unresolved grief. So let's address that for a moment. If you've ever dealt with grief, you know that it's very, very difficult. When someone dies, someone close to you, the first time that something good happens in your life, you want to pick up the phone and call them, and you realize they're not there. Or the first time that you laugh about something that you would have laughed about with that person, and they're not there to laugh with you. It hurts and it cuts deeply. Or the first time you go through a moment in your life that you would have shared with that person, or something reminds you of that person, and they're not there, it hurts again. And all those wounds come up every single time. And it may be a while, again, until something reminds you all over again of them, an anniversary or a holiday or seeing an old photograph. And every time that happens, that old scar, that old wound gets reopened. And that's how grief operates. It's just a cycle. And it really never ends because you're going to be dealing with a loss of that person for the rest of your life. And grief operates like that. And if you're using alcohol to compensate for that, then the use of alcohol will never be enough to fix that grief. Now, let me compare that to urges of alcohol. So, when you have an urge to drink, you stop drinking, and the first 3 days are the toughest. And the first week is very difficult as well. And maybe your trigger is driving by the liquor store, and you drive by the liquor store, and that's an urge for you, and you pull in, and you're like, that's it, I'm done. That urge is always there. And maybe an urge is every time you have an argument with your spouse, and you have an argument with your spouse and you blow it, and that's it. You drink, and it's over. Or maybe you had a bad day at work, and you have a bad day at work, and you come home and that bottle's there and it reassures you. Maybe your urge, your craving is anytime you feel grief, and there it is. There's that grief, and you blow it. And as soon as it happens, there it is. Or maybe it's family reunions. Maybe it's anger. Maybe it's cooking dinner. Maybe whatever it is, all those urges come about because you keep having these experiences. So let's switch back to grief for a second. Grief comes and we have those moments and we think about those people. And the first time you think of something fun, that you're the person who's passed away, and you think it's funny, you laugh about it, and then you grieve because you miss that person. That scar begins to heal. If it heals better if you're not drinking, but it begins to heal, and every time you laugh and you think about that person, over time that scar begins to heal. And every time you see something or you experience something that makes you think about that person, it hurts, but it hurts a little less over time, and that scar begins to heal. And over time, all those scars, they're still there and they still hurt and they're painful, but they do begin to heal over time. It's harder if you're self-medicated with alcohol, but they do begin to heal. Same with alcohol. If you decide and make the choice in your life that you are serious about getting rid of alcohol, then you commit yourself to a program like Reframe or Alcoholics Anonymous or any program like that, and you get a community behind you and you dedicate yourself to being alcohol free, then you find people to be accountable to. And you say, I'm not going to stop at the liquor store this time. And you drive past that liquor store, you start kicking that craving. And every time you drive past that liquor store, it gets easier and easier, and that wound begins to heal, and that urge begins to go away. And maybe the next time you get in a fight with your spouse or your partner, maybe that wound begins to heal, and that craving, that specific craving, begins to go away. And maybe the next time you get angry, that craving, that desire for alcohol begins to go away a little bit. And so grief and alcohol are fairly closely related in the way we heal over time with our cravings, with our grief. And they're can be very closely related in these ways. And so I would encourage you, if you're in this situation, to examine your own relationship with grief and alcohol and take a close look at the way that your life is going and your relationship with these two things, because it can have a powerful effect on your life. Um, it's hard to go through grief. It's even harder to go through the grief process if you are dependent upon alcohol. And again, I encourage you strongly to get into a community or talk to a healthcare provider if you are going through one or both of these at the same time. There are people out there who are just would love to help you in this process and would love to be along with you hand in hand along the way. And so that's it for today, Sober Without God, and I will see you next time.